Hi, welcome to my channel. My name's Taylor. I have a 3-year-old Hannah. She just turned 3 in August, and my twin boys Walker and Weston just turned 1 in October. I'm so excited to be doing a twin series because when I was pregnant with twins, I first found out I was having twins. I was looking for guidance and advice from twin moms themselves. So that's what I'm here to do today. This is big reason why I started my channel, and I'm so glad to be able to speak to you guys today. Hopefully I can give you some information and just some encouragement of this awesome journey you're either about to be on, you're on, or you're just watching for fun. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, and if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. So I wanted to make this video a little bit earlier before the twins turned 1, but it just didn't happen. I did start my channel a few months ago. I've only put out 2 videos, but I'm really excited to get it going now that things have slowed down just a little bit. Now that the boys are turning 1, hopefully I can get them weaned breastfeeding. So I found out I was pregnant about 4 weeks along, and I took a test, and sure enough, I was pregnant. We were very excited. My daughter Hannah was about 19 months old at the time, and then I started to get really sick really fast. This did not happen with my first pregnancy. I had some stomach bugs that made me sick, but I did not have morning sickness really, or I wasn't sick a lot. I just kind of felt nauseous at night. If I went to bed at a certain time, I was fine. But with the boys, I definitely experienced a lot of vomiting and just feeling really sick, which was really hard with a small toddler. But it is what it is. We have family that lives close. Both our parents live near us, so they help me out a lot. And I had just this bizarre feeling that it was twins. I don't know why. And I looked up what are signs that how do you know you have twins? Without an ultrasound. And I was like, man, I just really think this. I told my husband, and I was like, am I crazy? Is that a weird thing to think? And of course, being naive, not knowing how awesome having twins are, I'm like, I hope not. That was my thought, which shame on me for that. But so I told my mom that, and she was like, you're kidding. I was thinking the same thing. I had this weird feeling that you're having twins, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy. So I just kind of didn't tell anyone else because it kind of sounded dumb, and because there was really no reason besides feeling really sick, which you can feel really sick with different pregnancies anyway. I just had a weird feeling. So I went to my first ultrasound was at 7 weeks, and I felt so sick. I actually was sitting in the back seat, laying back, and I just was driving there, my husband driving me there, and we had a conversation. I had a trash can. I just felt so sick. We had a conversation in the car, what if it is twins? What are we gonna do? How do we feel about it? And we were just saying, my husband was like, God will provide. God is great. He has just blessed us beyond belief. We'd be so thankful for 2 blessings instead of just 1. And I said, yeah, I hope not, which is, again, terrible. And when people say that to me now, oh, I hope I don't have twins, I have to take it from my perspective before having twins was kind of the same, just because it's kind of an intimidating thing. But of course, we're so glad to have these babies, and God just was orchestrating it all then. We see each child as a blessing. So we dropped off our daughter with my in-laws and went to the ultrasound appointment. I was feeling super sick, like I said. I kind of forgot about it, to be honest with you. I know that sounds kind of crazy because you think, oh, you think this is twins, you would be that would be just on your mind all the time. Anyway, so we go into the ultrasound room. They start to, I had to do a transvaginal ultrasound. They start and I'm just feeling, like I said, so sick. So I'm kind of watching the screen, and all of a sudden I see up there, my uterus, woo, and I see kind of 2 shadows. I don't even know how to explain it. And I don't know how to read ultrasounds very well because I didn't have too many with my daughter, and I'm not trained. So I looked at it and I'm like, that kind of looks weird, but whatever. And I felt so bad. Like I said, my mind was elsewhere. And the ultrasound tech was like, oh, you might have a cyst here. Let me just go ahead and see what's, let me look closer. And she goes, oh no, they're actually 2 babies. And I was like, I looked at my husband and I looked up and I said, of course. That was my response. A lot of people asked me what was my response to finding out I was expecting twins, and that was it. My husband was laughing. We just couldn't stop kind of laughing. I felt so sick. That didn't change. So we got to the waiting room, and I didn't really know much about twins and types of different kinds of twins, just that they were fraternal and identical, and I just assumed they were fraternal. I didn't know what made them identical, what made them fraternal, how you could tell that from the image. So I texted my friend Margaret and I said, OMG, it's twins. And I couldn't wait to tell her. And I ended up calling my mom when I left the appointment to tell her, yes, Mom, it is twins, just because it's great. She goes, oh, I just knew. That's so crazy. I said, I know. So that day I just was seeing the nurse. So they just kind of prepped us like for the pregnancy. So it was so exciting. We went and we still couldn't believe it because it was just such a shock that it was actually twins. So we go to pick up our daughter. Well, of course, my in-laws are going to be like, well, let's see a picture, because they knew we were going to get ultrasound pictures. And so I showed them in the driveway because my father-in-law had just gotten home from work, and my mother-in-law was out there with our daughter, and I just kind of showed it to them because it says A and B, and they were just kind of like, what? And they were shocked and so excited, though. Once the initial shock wears off, they were so happy for us. Such a cool thing. And we told the rest of our family, immediate family, and I told a few other people, and then I waited until we announced it 10 weeks because I was showing so quickly, because this was my second pregnancy and there were 2, and I'm not a skinny mini. I have got a lot of, I'm really tall. I'm 5'10", so you would think it would hide, but it didn't. So at 8 weeks, the next week, I saw my actual doctor, and I had a little bit of a somewhat bumpy first pregnancy, not terrible. So my doctor, I was just kind of a handful, I guess, for my doctor, and she was like, oh my gosh, you're kidding me, it's twins. Wow, this is going to be interesting. And then she told me that they're actually Modi twins. So that means that they are identical and they share a placenta, but they are in separate sacs. So she was telling me that their risk was moderate, that it wasn't the highest risk, but that I would likely be facing like hospitalization at the end, just to prepare me, because she knows I'd rather hear like worst case scenario as far as like what I'm going to be enduring and kind of what to expect, and I'd rather expect the worst and get the best results. She told us all that, and then we kind of told our family, and I kind of started the research then. So I started the research, started showing at 10 weeks, told everyone at 10 weeks, everyone was shocked, did a fun little announcement, and then I finally started feeling better around 12 weeks. We went on a little vacation as a family of 3. Our last vacation is family 3, and then I was experiencing just back pain throughout the whole pregnancy and heartburn really bad. But those were really the only 2 things that really bothered me a lot. I didn't feel sick anymore after after I got through the first trimester, and it got so much better. At 16 weeks, I started seeing a high-risk doctor, a maternal fetal medicine MFM doctor. That's just what my doctor wanted to do. She felt comfortable delivering the babies, but I needed to be monitored by a high-risk doctor because they were Modi. So there's a lot of things that can happen when you're pregnant with Modi babies. Since they share a placenta, they can have the most common thing, or most dangerous thing to look out for, is twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome, which can pretty much means that one baby is getting more of the fluids and nutrients than the other one, which can cause all sorts of problems. And so they wanted to monitor my fluid levels. So I had an in-depth ultrasound and consultation every 2 weeks until I was like 25 weeks or 30 weeks or something like that. Well, not that late, because I had the babies at 33 weeks. I don't know. This is the problem with doing it a year later. I can't remember nothing. At 16-week appointment, all my appointments were so long. If you go to a high-risk doctor, I don't know if everyone's is like that, but I was there 3 hours every single time. It was terrible. And it was at 11 o'clock. They didn't do it at any other time. Like, who does that to a pregnant lady with twins at lunchtime and you don't get out until 1 p.m.? No, thank you. So we found out, I thought we were expecting boys. I just had a feeling, and since I was right about the twins thing, I was pretty confident. It was like, they're boys. I just know. Now, obviously, since they're identical, they had to be either boys or girls. So we found out they were boys, and we were so excited. So we found that out at 16 weeks. I also found out I had placenta previa, so I got put on like pelvic rest and just kind of waited for, or I couldn't exercise and just take it easy. I guess I can't remember exactly what, but which that resolved within like a month or two completely, so that was not a concern anymore. I did have baby A was breech, baby B was transverse, which stayed that way until the very end. So I had a vaginal delivery with Hannah, so I was hoping that I could do a vaginal delivery with the twins, but my doctor, if baby A was not head down, then she would not let me do a vaginal delivery. So I was knowing I was having to do a C-section ahead of time really helped me, though, because I was able to do my research. That helps me out a lot, just being able to know kind of what to expect. I was going bi-weekly to my high-risk doctor. I was going monthly to my regular OB, and everything was looking good. They never had any signs of twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome, never had any other complications until 25 weeks. This is when things went downhill. I just had my 24th birthday, and like seriously that weekend. So my birthday is the 20th of August, and the 22nd is when I had my appointment with the doctor, and I had done like a family reunion that weekend. It wasn't anything crazy. It was like one day, and I didn't like run around or anything, but it just made me feel really bad. And so I went to the doctor knowing that my blood pressure was probably high. I did have high blood pressure in my first pregnancy, just pregnancy-induced hypertension. I never had all the symptoms of preeclampsia. They checked my protein every time I went in. The dog's barking at me to let him in. Be right back. Gosh, she's high maintenance. So I went to the doctor. My blood pressure was high. They did a urinalysis, and I did have one complication I had the whole time was urinary tract infection. So I had one pretty much the whole time. They finally was able to get it under control, so I didn't have to take like a daily antibiotic just to keep it at bay. It was actually I never knew I had it, really. I mean, because all the UTIs, a lot of UTI symptoms are the same as like pregnancy symptoms, so I didn't really notice it. They just kept me on some antibiotics, and then it finally went away. So 25 weeks, went in, and they were like, yeah, your blood pressure is kind of higher than we'd like it to be, especially when you're feeling bad too. I was having like headache, dizziness, just feeling yuck. And I had a toddler, and so that made it worse. That made it stressful, of course, because my toddler was just about to have her second birthday. Her birthday is the 26th. So she wanted me to go to the ER, the OB ER, and go to triage and have them check my blood pressures, monitor that. And then she wanted me to do a 24-hour urine test to see if I had protein in my urine. The DIPUA at the doctor did not show any protein, but she wanted that more detail, where she got the actual number from that detailed 24-hour urine. So I go, and my blood pressure was better at the hospital after I'd been there for a little bit and relaxed. And I had a really bad headache every day at the end, and that was making my blood pressure go even higher. So I went to, and so they went ahead and discharged me and sent me home with the jug to pee in. I had to keep in the fridge or whatever. So they sent me to the OB ER, got my urine, went home, brought it back the next day so they could check it. Turns out I did not have preeclampsia, which was good, but I went ahead and was put on bed rest at home. So she didn't want me to leave the house, wanted me to lay down, sit down as much as possible. I was not supposed to be cooking or cleaning or going anywhere, and I was like, that is torture. With Hannah, I was put on bed rest, but it was more of a modified bed rest, pretty much no working. I was working full time at the time. She wanted me off work and didn't want me to do like extra stuff like exercising, or just, you know, she just wanted me to take it easy. I could go to church and all this stuff, but she wouldn't let me go anywhere, which was terrible. I actually ended up going to like my in-laws' house sometimes and my mom's house just so I could get out of the house, but you know, I had them drive me or whatever. It was terrible. So, but I knew it was for a greater good, for the baby's health. So that always drives you to get through times like that. And that's when I watched a whole lot of YouTube. Got to know all these different families because all I could do was sit on my butt and do nothing. So luckily I just had one child at the time, so she was able to kind of go with my mother-in-law, my mom, and not be like a huge burden on them. I'm so thankful for them during that time. They really helped us out. Everything went kind of just kind of like this, sailing in until about 33 weeks. And I knew before my appointment that I was going to get sent to the hospital because my blood pressure was high at home. I was checking it and I was feeling so bad. I mean, I was just absolutely miserable. I had such a bad headache. I felt just so sick. I don't even know how to explain it. I just felt like crap because when your blood pressure is high, you usually don't feel that well, but it just was really bad. I think my blood pressure was like 170/95 or something, not like terribly high, but my blood pressure is normally like 112/65. So this was just crazy high for me. And they, I think it's 140/90 is when they get concerned. It was well over that. And so they went ahead and they did send me to the hospital, and I had already had my bag packed because I knew I was going to get sent to the hospital. And my headache was just unbearable, and I had migraines, so this was just unbearable pain. I was miserable, and so they put me in the hospital, wanted me to get some medication, some pain medication, some rest to see if that helped. My blood pressure did end up going down, but I could not get my headache they could not make my headache go away. So that was obviously very concerning to them because that is a sign of, you know, or a symptom of preeclampsia. So they went ahead and wanted me to do a 24-hour urine again, but I was in the hospital. I stayed overnight. They wanted to monitor me and get a 24 hours of blood pressures. So I was in the antepartum area, and all my blood work like came back good, like my liver, which is what your preeclampsia affects. It should, a lot of times it'll show up in that, that kind of testing. So they were pretty confident that I wasn't actually going to have preeclampsia. I think the number was like 300. If it was above 300, the protein, I'm not sure like what units, but above 300, I would have to stay until my C-section. And my C-section was scheduled November 8th, and I made my doctor schedule me when I found out I was on bed rest. I was like, if I have to be on bed rest for 3 months, you have to tell me when it's going to end. So I had a countdown date. She said, I can do that. And so the countdown date was November 8th. My due date was December 2nd, and I knew they were never going to come then because they do require with MODI that they're delivered before 37 weeks just because they do share a placenta and it can deteriorate and cause stillbirth, all kinds of things. So they, I was scheduled, I think it was 36/6 or 36/4 or something like that. So it was just before 37 weeks that I was scheduled. So when they came back on, that was a Monday, so Tuesday, my brother was actually visiting me at the hospital, and the nurse comes in and says, okay, yeah, so we got the results, and unfortunately it was, I can't remember what it was, but it was like 310 or something, super close to 300, and she goes, I'm sorry, but you're not leaving. And I was kind of looked at my brother and I'm like, you're kidding me, right? And they thought it wasn't going to be over 300, but that's just the number they go, and if it's over, then you stay. So that was the deal. So I was gonna say, that was a Tuesday, and my C-section was 3 weeks and 1 day away from that. So I'm like, you're kidding me, I'm staying here for 3 weeks. And of course I have a small child, a 2-year-old, my husband works full-time, and so we were trying to figure out the logistics of that, how that was gonna work for 3 weeks, and then I'll have newborn twins. So, and we knew they would be probably in the NICU if they came before their scheduled C-section date. At our hospital, if they're born before 35 weeks, it's a requirement that they stay in the NICU until they're at least that age. I was at 33 and I guess 4 that day. No, 33 and 3. And so I was just like, okay, this is just the way it is. And the next day, Wednesday, my husband came to visit, or I had various visitors, but that evening, my husband came to visit with my daughter, got to see them. My friend Margaret was there, and they went ahead and went home. It was around 8 o'clock, so it's way past my daughter's bedtime. They went home. I said, go home, whatever. I just thought I was going to be there for a few weeks. So they went home, and the on-call doctor came in, and I had just been given Stadol for pain, because that's the only thing that helped my headache go away, and it made me feel a little loopy. But so I was super glad Margaret was still there. So it's about 8:30 on a Wednesday, and the doctor was like, yeah, I talked with your doctor, and we're going to go ahead and send you to labor and delivery tonight, go ahead and get you started on magnesium, and go ahead and schedule the C-section for tomorrow afternoon. And so I was kind of shocked, because my blood pressures had been like, okay, but they just were so worried that my headache was so bad. I mean, it was just really, it was almost a 10 out of 10. I mean, it was just terrible. I couldn't think, I couldn't do anything. I was in the hospital with nobody there, and I had the TV off. I was just staring, just begging like for the pain to stop. It was so awful. I called my husband, said, hey, this is what the deal is. Go ahead and tell your work you're not going to be there tomorrow. And and he's like, well, you want me to come? I said, no, don't worry about it. There's, no point in you coming up, because I'm just going to be on this medicine, no big deal. And it's going to be tomorrow afternoon. No use disrupting Hannah's schedule, because she had already been, like had a bath and was in bed and about to fall asleep. So no use disturbing her. And so I said, just get a good night's rest one last time before we have these babies. They took me to labor and delivery. My friend Margaret stayed. She's so sweet. She's so great. Hi, Margaret, if you're watching. She actually had to be at work the next morning. She was working full-time at the time, and she had to be at work the next morning, and she lived like 30 minutes away from the hospital, and then her job was like 30 minutes from her house, and she stayed with me until 11:30. It was insane. She's so awesome. I don't know what I would have done without her there, because I started to feel worse. And they started the magnesium. It burned in my arm for however long it took for it to go in there, but I was okay. I was feeling so miserable. Otherwise, I didn't really notice the effects of magnesium. Everyone talks about how bad it made them feel, but I already felt so bad. It didn't really do a whole lot of change. Didn't make a whole lot of change in how I was already feeling. So it did make me feel hot, sweaty, yucky, but that was about it. And so they started that. I told the nurse I was having back pain, and she's like, yeah, that's probably because of the bed, the labor and delivery beds, they split apart. So that was kind of in a bad part of my back, and I was carrying twins. And so I was just like, yeah, it just really hurts bad. Like, it's starting to bother me more than my headache. And so they were giving me Stadol like every 3 hours or something, but it wore off in like an hour and a half. It was like, and I don't even like taking like Advil or whatever very often. Like, I try not to take, especially like prescription medications, strong medications. I just prefer not to. So I was like, I need more medicine. I was so miserable. I just had bad back pain all night. Miserable back pain. I was watching the clock. I knew my husband was supposed to be there in the morning. I told the nurse how bad it was. They said, okay, well, we're monitoring you, and your doctor will be here around in the morning. And I love my doctor. She's awesome. She just gets me. And the on-call doctor was nice, but she just wasn't my doctor. And the nurse seemed like she didn't really totally know what she was doing. I never got checked throughout the whole time I was there. Like, they never checked to see if I was dilating or anything like that. I was never told I was having contractions. And then it was like about 6 o'clock in the morning when I started staring at the door because I knew that she would be coming soon. And I actually called my husband. I said, I'm sorry, but you need to come right now. Like, I'm absolutely miserable. You need to come as soon as you can. Please drop Hannah off. Get here soon. I have a feeling when they come around, they're going to try to, they're going to take me in to have a C-section. And no one told me I was having contractions, nothing. So my husband gets there at about 7:50, comes in, and he's like, I'm so sorry. I said, I should have had you come because I was miserable all night. One of the worst nights I've ever had of pain. And I would have known that I indeed was having contractions, which I found out that I may have been able to manage the pain a little bit better mentally, knowing, hey, this is contractions, this is, you know, how you're gonna deal with it. Or that way I could just better prepare myself and be able to breathe through it, knowing it was contractions for a purpose and not just, oh, your back hurts. Never felt pain really in my stomach. It was all in my back, all of it in my back. So I waited for my doctor. My doctor came in at 8 o'clock, so 10 minutes after my husband got there. She was seemed very upset because apparently I'd been contracting all night, and she came in, checked to see if I was dilated, which was unbearable pain, and she said I was dilated to a 2, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but with my daughter I was induced and had an epidural before I ever dilated, so I didn't feel any of that. And mind you, I felt terrible anyway, so it was just all, and I had a breech baby A, so she did not want me dilating. She did not want me going into, you know, full-on labor. So it didn't matter if I had had that C-section scheduled or whatever. I would have been having these babies anyway. I'm so glad I was at the hospital. God really protected me there. He took care of me, and so they rushed me in to a C-section. So that was 8 o'clock. And they got me all ready, got me in there. It was freezing. I was kind of nervous because it happened so fast. And I was nervous about having a C-section, but I did watch one on YouTube, and that really helped. Some people are like, rather not know. I wanted to know. So I get in there, get in the OR. My husband had to stay outside until I was ready. They prepped me. My anesthesiologist was great. They did a spinal. It was a little bit different than the epidural that I had with my first. It was a lot faster, and it was a lot stronger, and I felt pretty good. I was talking to them, I said I feel a little sick, and then they said okay, so they gave me some medicine, my IV, felt better. So I just started keeping like communication, because that's what I'd seen on some YouTube videos, like a suggestion was just keeping communication with the anesthesiologist, and they're there to help you. And so I just kept talking to them, and unfortunately I was not quite numbed all the way on my stomach, so I told them, hey, you know, I can feel that, whatever you're doing. And they said, what? You can feel that? I said, yeah. And they said, it's more just like pressure, right? I said, no, it feels like something's stabbing me. Well, they were doing like tweezers or something, I don't know, but they're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, we don't want that. So he went ahead and gave me more medicine. I felt pretty yucky, and when my doctor came in, she was getting all ready, and the anesthesiologist told her what was going on, that I could still kind of feel, you know, wherever it was. And she said, well, you know, can you give her more medicine or whatever? And he said, no, I don't want to do that, because her stats were kind of going a little crazy. And I'm right there. I'm like, hello, why are you saying this when I'm right here? And but they were both so awesome. I love my doctor, and the anesthesiologist was awesome and kept me calm. And as long as I was talking to him, he was telling me what was going on. Like, go ahead and come. They did a little bit more. It was okay. They went ahead and started cutting. I asked him, I said, are they starting? You know, and he kind of talked me through it, which was great. Unfortunately, when I looked up into the light, I could see my reflection of my insides open, which kind of was disturbing. So I'm like not, I actually love medical stuff, love blood, you know, I shouldn't say I love blood. I don't mind seeing it. I don't mind seeing surgery, stuff like that. But when it's me currently in the moment happening, don't want to see it. So my husband had come in at that point. He was like, trying not to look, because he is opposite. He doesn't do blood and guts at all. So he was like, and came behind the sheet, so you can't see anything. He's next to me, supporting me. He's awesome. And very soon at 8:53, baby A was born. 8:55, baby B was there. They had a huge team there. There probably was like, 10, 15 people in the room. So be prepared for that. Lots of people. It's a huge room. So they had a NICU team for baby A, a NICU team for baby B, because I was 33 weeks and 5 days, so they were going to have to spend time in the NICU. I did receive steroid shots the day before to mature their lungs. They were crying right away. I was so relieved. My body felt just immediate relief when they were born. Baby A, Walker Levi, was 4 pounds and 4 pounds 7 ounces. Baby B, Weston Isaac, was 4 pounds 15 ounces. Baby B was bigger the entire pregnancy. So they were born, they were here. What are you doing, Ryder? They were born, they were here. I was so relieved. They were doing well. Their APGAR scores were actually 9 and 9, which is amazing. They were breathing fine. They were really little, of course, and they kind of just whisked them away. And I kind of felt, I was like, I asked the nurse, I said, can I see them? Because my husband kind of walked off to look at them, take some pictures. And I wanted to see them, so they kind of held, Daniel, my husband, held them up, and we got a sweet picture with them before so I never got to hold them. I didn't get to breastfeed. We had to take them straight to the NICU. I did plan on breastfeeding. I'm going to make a separate video on that. That's going to be one of the parts in the series, so stay tuned for that. But I did want to breastfeed, so I was kind of worried about that, but again, more in that video. Got stitched up, I was good to go. They were like, you know, once this stuff wears off, you're going to start to feel worse, a lot of pain. Make sure to stay on top of your meds, whatever. So we leave, and it was kind of weird. It was like I had babies, but they were gone. It was so sad. I felt kind of odd. Went back to my room I had been in for a few days and found out that that was actually going to be my postpartum room, which stunk because it was really small. There was no, like, it just wasn't great. But actually, I'm lying. I was in a labor and delivery room for a day. Because I got put in there that night or whatever. They started me on magnesium, and because I was on magnesium, I had to stay in labor and delivery in my bed, and I had to stay there for 24 hours. So I couldn't eat anything. I can't remember if I could drink anything. For sure couldn't before, which was terrible because I was having, you know, I was having surgery, so can't eat or drink anything. So I hadn't had anything to eat in like days. But I'm feeling fantastic because those babies were out. I felt so much better, instant relief. Go back, they're like, oh, I start to feel some pain. I'm like, well, I feel some tightness, you know, but it's not unbearable. And so just stayed on the medication. I didn't get to see the boys until the day after they were born. I got to see them. They were on their little incubator type things, little warming beds. They were thriving. They said they're big for being boys and being twins and being as early as they were. They were doing great. They both had feeding tubes, and they were both needing temperature help. But besides that, we're doing awesome. They were getting donor milk at the time in the very beginning, and then I was able to actually pump. I started pumping right after, and so I was able to send colostrum to them for them to feed them. So, and then I supplemented with donor milk. And then I ended up staying for 3 days after, so I was there almost a week. I was there from Monday to Sunday. And we were told that the boys had to stay until they were 35 weeks gestation, which was 9 days from when they were born. So I went home, and I was feeling great. I just was, you know, taking it slow. It did hurt, but I did get up, did all the things that are researched. So get like an abdominal binder that, you know, goes around and you, that straps, and kind of sucks everything in, kind of keeps things from moving around. It feels a lot better. I think if I wouldn't have had such like a tummy left from the boys, that would have made it easier because it's kind of sagging onto, that sounds gross, but it's sagging onto the incision. And the incision, if you don't know, is pretty low. It's like below your underwear line, so it's pretty low, and it really wasn't bad, honestly. It was actually a much better experience than my vaginal delivery. Let me know if you want to see a video on like comparing my vaginal delivery and my C-section. It was a much better recovery. It was a little bit longer as far as like feeling totally back to normal. It was better just experience overall. So the boys ended up staying in the NICU. Weston stayed, laundry's done. The boys ended up staying, Weston stayed, baby B, for 9 days, got discharged, and then Walker had to stay 2 extra days because he was having trouble with his feedings. So it was actually breastfeeding. They were getting pretty much all my milk, no longer having to have donor milk because I was producing so much milk. And I was going up there every day. I had my mother-in-law drive me because I could not drive. I was staying on top of my meds. Please do that because your recovery would be so much better. I felt great. I was just driving or riding in the car. I was like, ugh, when every bump hurts. And getting up and down seemed to hurt. That was like the biggest thing. But I felt great. I just felt so much better than I did when I was pregnant. I just had such a rough pregnancy, like in the end. It seemed like a breeze to me. So felt good. Was going up there to start latching, start breastfeeding, and I pumped and just to bond with the babies, of course. So baby B came home at 9 days, and then it was weird to like not have a baby for a week home. it was nice to be able to sleep and get rest that I needed. And I just pumped every 2 hours, I think. And then at night 3 hours, so I was able to get more sleep than I did with my first. Went to visit them all the time, and it was weird to have one home and one not. But he ended up coming home. We were so excited to have both our boys back together again. My sister was so excited to have her boys because she didn't get to visit them in the NICU because it was flu season, so it was October, and they didn't allow kids in there during that time of year. So she didn't get to meet them until they were over a week old. She was so excited. She bonded with them pretty quickly. My postpartum went really well. It took me probably 6 weeks to feel a lot better. And it took me about 6 months to pretty much not feel weird. Sometimes when I bit down, felt totally better. Every once in a while when I've been a weird way, I'll feel like a twinge. But overall, it was great. I felt so good, and the boys did great. Walker did go back to the NICU. He went to a children's hospital after his 2-week visit at the pediatrician because his temperature was too low. It was like 96 degrees. So they wanted him to get a little bit more feeding in him, a little bit more fat on him, and to be in a temperature regulated area. So he stayed there for 3 days and then was good. Personally, I think he was released just a little too early from the hospital that they were born at. But they did great. They're thriving. Now they just turned 1. They're doing awesome. And the first few weeks is really hard. So if that's you, just stick with it, mama. It'll get better. It'll get better, and it is such a blessing to have twins. Leave me any questions in the comments below. If you have any questions about anything, I'd be happy to answer it. Or if you're a twin mom yourself and have something to add that'd be helpful to other people. Thanks for watching.